Hello and welcome to the Rabyd Atheist. I'm Rabyd, a former pastor turned atheist, now compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. Feel free to like and dislike the videos you see fit, so feel free to hit those buttons. Feel free to comment below, and I would appreciate it if you'd subscribe to the channel and hit your notification bell for more content as it is released. You're also free to share my videos as much as you like, because the purpose of this channel is educational in regards to atheist and deconversion issues and any issues related to those issues. A hearty shout out to the Rabyd Nation. Join the nation by hitting that subscribe button, and if you want to support the channel in a more tangible way, hit the join button, and the membership options that lead to citizenship in the Rabyd Nation will be presented to you. Today I want to continue our Thursday running discussion on the various attributes of God, the existence of God or the non-existence of God. It's kind of it's an atheist thing, we're doing this running discussion. I was asked a question this week about why do I talk about something that I don't believe in? And that is because, as somebody with a theological studies degree, I am trying to demonstrate pretty much every week the cyclical nature of theology and how it just keeps going around in a circle chasing its own tail, which is probably really good proof that it's kind of a ridiculous exercise, that we're still holding on to old ancient beliefs, and in particular how certain concepts of God simply don't work by their nature. And in particular, right now, I'm talking about the omnigod. And so the question today for the omnigod, I guess, is does the omnigod have free will? Does he have true, genuine, libertarian type free will? Now, that kind of free will is defined as the real rational ability to do otherwise given a certain choices in front of a person if all other things are being equal. In other words, if A, B, and C are all equally desirable, all things are equal in those decisions, is there a rational capability, a real rational ability to choose any one of those in complete freedom? Okay, now there's a lot of arguments against libertine free will, and most of them are pretty good. I don't believe that any of our choices are without some sort of influence on them, where people have various different weights that they put on those to show us we as human beings have different flaws, different desires. There's nothing universal about our nature. But with the omnigod, there are some universal things about his nature or her nature, or whatever you want to say. But this is essential to a lot of theologies, that God has this kind of libertarian free will, because it's part of their essence of being God. It's God's great making property, that he has the ability to do as he wants, particularly if you have a very high view of sovereignty for God. Then God's sovereignty is absolutely hinges on, one, his omnipotence, and two, his absolute ability to make any choice that he wants to make. Okay, if God doesn't have this ability, then is he really omnipotent, becomes a question. Libertarian free will kind of becomes a necessity for omnipotence. But if he doesn't actually have this ability because of other attributes, then is he really omnipotent? Okay, and so this whole nature of the free will of God kind of undercuts the whole nature of the omnigod, because the issue is, can God do something that's against his nature? Okay, and if we say something about God that defines God's nature, then if God goes against this, can he go against it? So does he really have any genuine free will, and is anything equal with God, okay, because of his nature? Okay, can God choose to do something that's against his benevolence? I would say most theists would say, well, no, he's a good, loving God, and so therefore he can't do anything that is unloving. Well, that undercuts his free will, okay? Can God choose to do otherwise when he sees the future? Absolutely. If you take a classic view of omniscience, then God foreknows everything that's going to happen, including his own choices. So does he really have a choice about those choices, seeing he's already made them in his head with his divine foreknowledge? Does he then have free will at all? Okay, benevolence really gets undercut here. If God sees what is going to happen, he has no choice about what he's going to do. And so if you get a situation where God is is got faced with a choice of benevolence, he's constrained by his knowledge and his nature of being benevolent. Except that doesn't seem to happen. Okay. See, going back to some of our other questions about the problem of evil and problem of evil related, this really takes away from this idea of free will in God, okay, and him being omnibenevolent at the same time. You see, we often don't talk about, God's omnipresence, but God isn't just knowledgeable about an evil event. He's present at the evil event, okay? There's no evil event that he's not present at, okay? And so he has the power to do something about it. He is there present. He knows about it. And he's supposedly omnibenevolent. That God does not act in a way that is benevolent. You're either going to have to dump God's benevolence in free will and basically say, well, God has his own reasons. We're going to hide behind, mystery, like a lot of theists do because they don't have a better answer, or they realize that the answer that they would give is nonsensical, and so they hide behind mystery. But it just doesn't really do your case really good when you do that. It just, you're punting. And so we have this God who is present at every evil act in history, who's there, who knows about it, has the power to do something, and doesn't do anything about it. That would protect his free will if he wasn't benevolent, okay? Or we could also protect God's free will if we get rid of classic views of omniscience, like we go an open theist route where God knows things propositionally as well as knows things absolutely. Certain things are absolutely going to happen and certain things are propositionally going to happen. But even in open theism, then, the things that are absolutely going to happen, does God have any free will about those things? And so the question becomes, is this omni-God who has this far-seeing benevolence really all that benevolent? Because that's often the defense, like there's a greater good that's going to be achieved by God. He has this benevolence that's more far-reaching because of his omniscience, and so that's why he kind of overlooks all the evil in the world and continues on his merry way, because there's a greater good that's going to be achieved through suffering and death and so on and so forth. The real problem with all of this is, like I said at the beginning of this video, notice how cyclical this is. We're always playing this merry-go-round game of trying to keep all these four qualities of God: omnipotence, omniscience, omnipresence, and omnibenevolence, all loving God. We're trying to keep one of these things, all of these things intact, but it seems like no matter where we turn, we have to discard one or redefine one or dummy down one. And this is the nature of theology. I don't often talk about the nature of theology, but as somebody with a master's degree in theological studies, one of the things I noted about reading theologians is the reason that they don't agree a lot. It has nothing to do with, God's nature being fuzzy and mysterious. It's the fact of the matter is everybody kind of just pushes their side of what they think is most important about the attributes of God that they've created in their head. And so, Calvinists will push the omnipotent, sovereign aspect of God and kind of diminish the omnipotence of God and the knowledge of God, or not necessarily. Others will dummy down the omnipotence of God. Well, he only has power over circumstances. Or they dummy down the omniscience of God by going, well, God knows only some things absolutely, other things are all propositional. And so what you have is this kind of cyclical fight with all these people go around. And they're not really dealing with any evidential standard of reality here at this point. The one thing I can say that the free will thing does is it highlights the fact that we're not dealing with any evidence about God. We're dealing about our own imagination and our own thoughts about God. And this is why it creates the problem for the omni-God. We try to imagine this God that's all-powerful, all-loving, cares about us very much, knows everything, is everywhere present. And then reality bites us in the butt because that doesn't line up with that God. And then we sit here and we sit around and pontificate about how we're going to keep going around and around in circles. And so from my perspective, the whole free will issue for God kind of highlights how the whole thing is a nonsensical discussion. Now, the reason I continue to have this discussion is to illustrate how nonsensical it is and how much we keep going around in a circle when we talk about theology. as somebody who has seen the nonsense of it, I can't unsee it. And so I keep asking these questions, not for my benefit, but for all you theists out there. When you come to realize the fact that all of this omni stuff is stuff that human beings made up in their own head and doesn't have any relationship to any kind of God or reality, if even God exists, and thus stands as real good evidence that we're just creating things in our own mind as human beings. But as always, I'd be interested to hear what anybody has to say in the comments about this issue. Does God have free will? And does free will kind of illustrate the absurdity of the whole God question really, really well? I guess we'll see. All of you can give me your thoughts, pro and con. I always appreciate all the comments one way or the other, because it's always an interesting little mental exercise to get around all this stuff. So, leave your thoughts. This is the whole point of Thursdays, as I propose a question and you guys talk about it. So thanks once again for stopping by. I appreciate every like, share, and subscribe. The channel's really going. A shout out to all my members. I have 4 of them now. Thank you guys. I'm hoping to acknowledge you in a more personal way here next week or so, where I can let everybody know who you are and how much I appreciate you. But if I ever get 8 members, they'll start appearing at the top of the screen on my page. So some of you need to join just to see that happen. Thanks for everybody that has already, and anybody who will do so in the future. As always, live your best life. You only get one go around and then it's over. And there is no afterlife to look forward to. So instead, give all your money and energy and power to building up yourself, building up the people that are around you and you love and care for, and making this a better world so it makes it easier for the rest of us as well as yourself. And don't give it to the trappings of religion and faith, because that's a dead end. I speak from experience. And as always, thanks for stopping by, and I'll catch you next time.